This is Heavenly Action. I thought this was their first single, but maybe it's not. Uh, it might be Who Needs Love Like That. But at any rate, this came out in 1985. This is Heavenly Action, UK single. Very cool song from their first album, Wonderland. Yeah, I'm going to skip that one. I'm not going to show every one of these. Here's Who Needs Love Like That, the Mexican mixes. These are basically Joseph Watt remixes. Joseph Watt is the Razormaid guy. Shit remixer. He's not even a remixer, he's an editor. There's a big difference. But back in the 80s, people highly coveted this guy's remixes. All the Razormaid stuff, basically. You join this Razormaid list, and only DJs could get the Razormaid stuff, and you still had to pay for them. And then you got them, and they were just like these cheap ass edits. But somehow Joseph Watt did some mixes like that got released commercially. He did some for Erasure, he did some for Depeche Mode, he did a few others, but never anything good. Yeah, in fact, Erasure used one of his mixes on the UK version or the Euro version of Wonderland, the Push Me Shove Me version on the Wonderland album in Europe was a Joseph Watt mix. That mix did not get released on the US version. I'll get to that in a minute. But here's the US version of Who Needs Love Like That. Different mixes. Um, here's Sometimes. This is the UK version of Sometimes. It's got some Flood remixes on it. But yeah, these are all. This is the UK version. Who Needs Love Like That. This is all from 1985. Erasure's first album came out then. Obviously, it's Vince Clarke and Andy Bell. Vince Clarke started with Depeche Mode, then he went to Yaz, and then he formed Erasure with Andy Bell. So yeah, Vince Clarke was a known commodity already, and he wanted to move on and form his new band with Andy Bell, and that's what Erasure was. And they kicked it off in 1985. Here's Olamore, UK version. Some really cool B-sides, March On Down the Line and Gimme Gimme Gimme. March On Down the Line actually ended up on the US version of Wonderland, which I think is a better version. I prefer the US version over the Euro version. This is the Olamore Remix 12-inch, not vinyl. Funky Sisters remix of Olamore, which is different than the mix you get on the UK version there. I'm going to cover the singles from the first two albums because I have a compilation of the first two albums. I'll show that in a minute. This is from the second album, The Circus, in 1987. It doesn't have to be. Some more remixes on there. Here's a remix of It Doesn't Have to Be. This has got a Holger Hiller remix of Heavenly Action. Holger Hiller was a producer. He was loosely associated with Renegade Soundwave and Carl Bonney of Renegade Soundwave. Yeah, he was just a producer, one of those in-house mute guys. Here's a US version of The Circus. This is the single, The Circus. One of the really great, I talk about this in my write-up on my website too. One of the great things about Erasure in the 80s was they were on mute, which meant that they got those in-house remixers and producers to work and produce on their stuff, like Daniel Miller and Gareth Jones and Mark Saunders and John Fryer. You know, these people worked with Depeche Mode and Erasure. And Paul Kindle was another one. Paul Kindle is someone who worked a lot with Nights of Ebb as well as Erasure. These were guys that kind of worked for Mute, and they produced these bands. And they not only produced them, but they came up with remixes for them too. So their remixes were always better than the outside remixers, I thought, because they had an inside understanding of the band. They produced these songs for the album, and then they further remixed them. And I felt that was a really good extension of what the fans enjoyed, in that they produced these completely different versions of these songs that we liked. This is what is this? Live in Hamburg. Didn't even know what it is. This is a triple pack, basically a bunch of live tracks and a couple remixes. There are 3 records stuffed in here. This was a European only release. Victim of Love, another single from The Circus. This is the US version. Two Ring Circus. This came after the Circus. It basically has a bunch of remixes on it that were not on any of these singles, so you get even more remixes here. Then you get three orchestral arrangement versions of album tracks down here, but a good collection of remixes nonetheless. And then this, what is this? Oh, this is the US edition of Wonderland on Sire. And you can't see the track listing here, but this is different than the European version because it has March On Down the Line on it. It does not have Push Me, Shove Me on it, and it does not have Pistol. And the songs are slightly in a different order as well. But because March On Down the Line is on this, I prefer this version. I just like that song. I never was a big fan of the song Pistol, and I wasn't a huge fan of Push Me Shove Me because it was the Watt remix from Razormaid. So, and this album is not my favorite. I explain why a little bit in my write-up online on my website, but this album's not bad. It just sounds like a collection of songs, like it sounds like they had a bunch of songs that are already done and they tried to kind of smash them all together on their first album. There's not a lot of cohesion on this album. It's got a lot of good songs, but it doesn't really work as a full cohesive album. So, and then this is a German compilation. It's the Circus, and then Wonderland. This is the European version, the version I just told you about with Pistol on it, and then Circus. I don't remember where I got this years ago. I don't even know. I don't remember where I got it. But it's kind of a cool package. It's a gatefold sleeve. You get Circus over here, Wonderland over here. I think it's got the printed inner sleeves like the ones you get. This one's got a die cut cover. You pull it out, you see there, it's got a hole in the cover, kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, you get two albums. I think at the time, basically, it was like a two album for the price of one type of deal. And the Circus is one of my favorite albums from Erasure for sure. Moving on into their catalog, you get Ship of Fools here. This was the lead-off single to their next album in 1988, The Innocence. And The Innocence is the album that everybody knows about. It's got their two biggest hits on it. Great album. There's very little to dislike on The Innocence, but this was the lead-off single, actually. People sometimes find that hard to believe. The Innocence, has both Little Respect and Chains of Love on it. They're two biggest songs, really. But those were not the lead-off singles. It was this, Ship of Fools. And this is a great song, a down-tempo song. It's got some great mixes on there, great B-sides with River Deep, Mountain High, and When I Needed You. Really cool B-sides. This is the remix part for Ship of Fools. Different mixes, different cover. You can see. Very cool single. What do we got here? What is this? What do we got here? This is a promo that I got. Oh, you know what? This is out of order. Well, you know what? I'll get back to that in a minute. Well, wait a minute. Is this? Yeah, this is out of order. I'll get back to the minute. Here we go. Here's a Little Respect. This is the US promo version. This has a couple of extra Justin Strauss remixes on it that you couldn't find elsewhere. I still don't think you can find it elsewhere. Slightly different cover, like this is on the commercial cover. I'll show you in a second. But this is almost like a negative, like a sepia version of it. And again, a few mixes that are only on here, so that's kind of cool. Chains of Love, great single, great B-sides too. You have Ennio Morricone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You have Vince Clarke's take on it, which is actually really good. And then Don't Suppose, a great single there. And then there's another part, I'm not going to show it, there's another part to Chains of Love that has different mixes of all these. Both of them are worth getting. Oh yeah, that's the other Chains of Love. I don't want to show every one of these. Here's a Little Respect. This is the cover wait, no it isn't. This is the UK one. The US one has a purple cover but a slightly different image here. I've got the US one over here, but the commercial version. Anyway, More mixes. Very cool B-side with like La Zsa Zsa Gabor. I think this is the one with the Mark Freegard mix. Yeah. This has a Mark Freegard mix of like La Zsa Zsa Gabor. That's different than the mix you find on the US version. Oh, here's the remix EP version of A Little Respect. And here's the album, The Innocence. And this is a sick track listing. Look at this. I mean, pretty much every song all the way to Witch in the Ditch, which is just an awful song. Every song on this album could be a single, potential single, except Witch in the Ditch is just terrible. I'm sorry. I don't know what the band was thinking when they put this on here. It doesn't flow with the album, and maybe it could have been a B-side, but yikes, just a fucking bad song. Corny and dopey and cheesy. Yeah, no thanks. But the rest of these, good lord, Little Respect, Ship of Fools, Phantom Bride could have easily been a single. Chains of Love, Hollowed Ground could have been a single. Heart of Stone could have been a single. This is how everyone knows Erasure. I think mainly because of A Little Respect. And fair enough. Listen, can you think of a better pop song in history? There are many. Little Respect is a fantastic song, and that's how everyone knows them, and fair enough. I'm not going to argue the merits of that song. And so after that, they moved into 1989, one of my favorite Erasure albums. This is a single from the Wild album. This is Drama. Excellent B-sides. This album was produced by Mark Saunders, who did a lot of their remixes. You have Sweet Sweet Baby in Paradise as the B-sides. Great stuff. Another great single here, You Surround Me. And this was a banner time for Erasure in terms of like B-sides and remixes. They were on such a creative high, and some of their B-sides were arguably better than their singles themselves or their album tracks. This is a great example of that. Really cool B-side with 91 Steps, but even more so with Supernature here, which isn't their song. That's a Chironi song, Supernature. I think most Erasure fans know Chironi. If you don't, go check him out. It's a cover version produced by Daniel Miller. This is the original version on this. It would later get remixed on here. This is the other remix accompaniment to that, You Surround Me. You have a William Orbit remix of Supernature. You have a Mark Saunders mix of You Surround Me. You have another remix of 91 Steps. Great single all around. Then for the Christmas season, 1989, they just put Supernature out as its own single. Great single too. I love this single. It's very, very creatively packaged. You get kind of a Velcro sleeve. Mine's kind of tearing apart here because I've yanked it open so many times over the years. The record slips out. You have another cover here. But this is a really cool single. You get yet another remix from Daniel Miller on here. You get a Mark Saunders remix of Supernature, and then you get yet another remix of You Surround Me on here. 3 unique mixes here. I'm telling you, these guys were on a creative high at this point. The remixes, the B-sides, they couldn't be stopped. It's so much creativity going on right here. You have to remember too, like this came out during the rave scene, so people were feeling really creative. There was it was just a creative explosion. And you can hear it, the Erasure started, they started kind of dipping their toe into the rave waters in this period. And you can hear it come out. There's a little more techno, a little more house is starting to happen here. And then here we go, Blue Savannah. This is like a recent reissue of Blue Savannah. This came out a few years ago. It's on blue vinyl. It has a brand new, at the time, Vince Clarke remix, and then it compiles a bunch of the older mixes here. Blue Savannah. This is on blue vinyl. I'm not going to pull it out. You know what the color blue looks like. And then that leads me to the one I put away earlier. This is a test pressing of Blue Savannah, a US test press. And I got this through one of my record pools I was in as a DJ back then. The record labels would send us stuff for free so we could play it in the clubs, and then they'd give us these types of things, these press releases talking about the single, trying to hype it up, track listings, You know, this here, I won't read it all, but it says, you've had a bunch of fun with our Pro Maxi 12-inch of this cut, but now here's the long-awaited commercially available Maxi. Since the mixes of Blue Savannah were tweaked in such interesting new directions by Gareth Jones and Mark Saunders, which is true, you should have no problem seeing infinite crossfade possibilities in contexts you would have never dreamed before. So yeah, they tried to hype up these singles by handing them out for free to DJs, and the reality was that us DJs would they'd send us multiple copies of this too. It depended on how many clubs you DJ'd at, but if you DJ'd at 10 clubs, they'd send you 10 copies of a record, so you could keep one at each location. So yeah, it was pretty cool. A lot of us would keep a few of these copies for ourselves, and then we'd sell the rest of them. I think I probably got more than one of these, and I've since sold them. Here's another example of getting a promo. This is a US promo of Blue Savannah with yet more mixes of Blue Savannah by Shep Pettibone. These were not my favorite remixes of this. I much prefer the Mark Saunders and Fisherman's Friend remixes that were on the other single there. But these aren't bad. Shep Pettibone, he kind of had his way of always remixing things. His tracks always sounded kind of samey to me. Here's another press release for the Shep Pettibone mixes. Has the release date, 1989. And then they put a far side. They call it the R side. R stands for Reprise Records. The R side. They would do this a lot. They put some jokey shit on one side of the press release. But this press release says, here are the killer remixes you've been waiting for of Vince and Andy's second single from Wild. The edited versions have a special intro that goes directly into the meat and potatoes of this great song, while the remixes reach the level of excellence and innovation that we've come accustomed to from these guys. Additional production and remixing was put into effect by Shep Pettibone. So there you go. More press release goodness, more remixes. Blue Savannah was heavily promoted, as you can see, and for good reason. It's one of their best songs. Okay, I don't know why. This is just the U.S. This is the U.S. version, commercial version of Blue Savannah. I think it's the same as the test pressing. The track listing is exactly the same. And then Star. Pretty good song, a decent single, but the reason to get this is the B-side, Dreamlike State. And not this version. You want to get, in fact, I have some 7-inches here. I don't have a lot of 7-inches in my collection, but I'm going to show this one. This is worth picking up because it has Dreamlike State on it, which in my opinion is not only their best B-side they ever put out, but just one of their best songs they ever put out, period. Dreamlike State. Star was the last single from Wild. It was their fourth single. Up to that point, they'd only put out 3 singles per album, but I think because Wild had done so well, they just kind of pushed out one last single. And, Dreamlike State was just like this last song that was tacked onto it. And it was good, man. It's possible it might not have ever been released had it not been for that last Star single. But totally worth it. And then here's Wild. Really, just a great album. This is so good. And I was surprised to see some of the other lists I saw on the internet. This was pretty low on people's lists generally. And this was in my top 3. I love this album. There are a couple of bad moments, like La Gloria. There's a song on here called La Gloria. It's like, what? It doesn't fit in with the rest of the album at all. It's completely bizarre. It doesn't flow with anything else on the album. But the rest of the album's fantastic. This is a great pop album. Fantastic. Those of you who don't rank that album, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to listen a little more closely. Okay, these I'll just show as a interesting curiosity piece. These are the Club records. Club. These got released in 1990, and these were put out there to kind of capitalize on the rave scene. They had some newer remixers, outside remixers that came in and did these. Like, let's see, which one's number 1? I think it's this one. Is it this one? Yeah. You've got a Bruce Forrest mix of Senseless, and then you've got a couple of John Marsh remixes of Push Me, Shove Me. Uh, those who don't know, John Marsh is the guy from The Beloved, Sweet Harmony, Celebrate Your Life, The Sun Rising. He's put out some great stuff, and he did some remixes here. Anyway, as it says, kind of geared toward the club. These were promos only, too. I think only a few hundred of these were made. So you don't see these very often. This is the second club. This is my favorite because it's got the Orb remix of Ship of Fools. One of my all-time favorite remixes. Just excellent, excellent stuff. This has a press release in here, too, as you can see. I'm not going to read it, but yeah. And then it has a Fortran 5 remix of Who Needs Love Like That, right? Yeah, the Winnie Cooper mix. Who Needs Love Like That? Yeah, Fortran 5, another great underrated band. And then this is the third in the series. This has a Danny Rampling remix of Sometimes, and then another Bruce Forrest mix of Weight of the World, which I thought was cool. Weight of the World was on the Innocence, and it was not a song that otherwise got remixed. So it was nice to see a remix of a kind of a random song. I wish Erasure did more of that. Anyway, these are cool. I like these. A good testament to the rave period here. And then this is kind of an interesting release. This is the US version of Who Needs Love Like That. They re-released it with a Phil Kelsey of DMC mix on it. DMC was a remix service. Phil Kelsey was the main guy. His mix of Who Needs Love Like That is pretty good here. It has that Danny Rampling remix of Sometimes on here, but it's edited. It's shorter. I don't know why. It's like a minute shorter on here. To get the full version, you need that promo I just showed. Anyway, it had some newer remixes at the time, which is cool. We're getting into one of my favorite Erasure albums, bar none, Chorus. This is the lead-off single from the album Chorus, and the song is called Chorus. This is the US 12-inch. This has a great B-side and Snappy. They continued their role with great remixes and B-sides here. Justin Robertson of Lion Rock steps up and remixes Snappy, the B-side. Very cool single. Was this the next single? I don't know if this was the next single. It might have been. Was it Love to Hate You? This maybe this was the third single. This is Am I Right? This is another Christmas release they did in the year 1991. Has a remix of Am I Right? And then 3 B-sides, which are all very cool. This is the remix portion of that. You have a Grid remix of Am I Right? You have a Mark Saunders mix of Love to Hate You. You have a Moby mix of Chorus. And then you have a B-side called B3. Very cool songs. Breath of Life. You have, this was the last single from the album. I don't have Love to Hate You right here. I don't know. It's not here. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. Love to Hate You is a great single that has Bruce Forrest remix and a couple of really cool B-sides. Don't have it to show you. Breath of Life, some good remixes there. Daniel Miller pops up there and produces a very cool mix. And then this is Chorus, the album. This is the original UK issue. Nice printed inner sleeve. A pretty lady there with her kid. You got the lyrics on the other side. Solid pressing this. Excellent album. Not a bad cut on here. In fact, some days, as I say in my write-up on my website, my favorite Erasure albums tend to shift and can change a little bit. A lot of days, this is my favorite Erasure album. And a lot of it, I just think the year it was released, it came out in 91. I was like so into music then. I was discovering so much different type of electronic stuff. I was still a kid. So much shit to soak in. And this is a perfect pop album. There's not a bad song on here. Not a single bad cut. Doesn't exist here. Vince Clarke and Andy Bell were on fire. And then this is what they did after Chorus. This is the ABBA-esque EP. They covered 4 ABBA tracks. People have probably heard at least Take a Chance on Me from this, which is a great song. This is the remixes of ABBA-esque. You get 2 remixes from Fortran 5 here. You get a remix from Chris and Cozy, and then another Phil Kelsey mix. And pretty good ones, too. Pretty good remixes. There's a lot of opportunity to screw those up, but they did a pretty nice job. Okay, we're moving along to 1994 here. We have a Erasure promo called Ghost. And as I look at this, I'm trying to Ghost. Okay, Ghost was a B-side. Yeah, that's right. This is a one-sided promo only 12-inch. Nothing on the other side. It has one song called Ghost. Ghost is not on the album. This was a B-side, and this is a great song. Very cool song. And yeah, to my knowledge, I think this might be the only place you could get it on vinyl. Maybe it's been released since then. But at the time, yeah, Mute gave me this, and I remembered them telling me that it was unreleased elsewhere. So very cool track too. Definitely worth picking up if you can find that one. Here's a UK promo of I Love Saturday. Yeah, not too exciting. US 12-inch of Always. This is one of their biggest songs, I think. It's probably in their top 10 of most recognizable songs, and it for good reason. Great song. This is the US version. You get 4 remixes here, all pretty solid stuff. Cool cover. They had this theme with all their singles, as I'll show in a moment. There are the boys right there. And then I Love Saturday came after that. Remixes. There they are again, hidden. And then Run to the Sun, same theme. Where are they? Where are they at this time? Oh, there they are. Kind of hidden. See them right there? Hidden. This is my favorite single because of all the remixes you get. You get a really solid smattering of remixes. Chris and Cozy pop up again here. I love Chris and Cozy. Huge fan, so there you go. And then this is I Say. Fantastic record. This is, a lot of people like this way more than I do. A lot of people had this at the very top of their Erasure albums list when they were ranking them, which I was a little surprised by, because when this album came out, it wasn't a very popular album. I think it comes with a lyric booklet that's kind of cool. Yeah, you can see that there. Anyway, yeah, at the time of release, this was not a big album. I remember people weren't so excited about it. Hang on a minute. This is all stuck here. But yeah, this is a very classic Erasure album in its sound. It's just full of like 3-4 minute pop ditties, and then it just goes away. Really good album. Not my favorite, but very good album. And then this leads me to my personal favorite Erasure album. And I'm only going to talk up to this point, because after this album, I fell out of my interest with Erasure a little bit. I've always listened to their albums since this time period, but the albums that directly followed this next album, they kind of lost me there for a moment, and I really haven't acquired any of their records since then. I do have a bunch of records from them after this period, but I'm not going to talk about them because I just don't have a lot of passion for them. So this is Stay With Me. This is the US promo version. This came out in 1995. This is not on I Say. That's 94. This is the year after. And an important piece of this is that this next album was produced by one of my favorite all-time producers, Thomas Fellman. Thomas Fellman is of The Orb. Solo. He records solo. Amazing producer. And a really fucking nice guy. I interviewed him when I worked at Discogs, and I actually I hate mentioning their name because I hate them, but I actually linked my interview with him in my Erasure write-up. So if you're interested in reading that, I thank you, because Thomas Fellman is an incredible electronic music producer, and I love him. And he produced this next Erasure album, which, in my humble opinion, is their greatest work. Here is the UK commercial release of Stay With Me. It's got a couple of different mixes on there. Fingers and Thumbs. Get some remixes. And the CD singles are worth picking up of this too. There's like a wire version. Wire is one of my favorite all-time bands. I'll have to talk about them at some point, but Wire does a mix. Some really solid stuff on the CD singles there. They just never came out on vinyl, unfortunately. This arguably could be my favorite Erasure single of all time. This is Rock Me Gently. Some reason Rock Me Gently only came out in Czechoslovakia. Uh, I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but this is the Czechoslovakian pressing. Rock Me Gently. Phenomenal single. And then I'm going to end this video. The last record I'm going to talk about, and saving the best for last, as far as I'm concerned, is their self-titled album. This came out in 1995, produced by Thomas Fehlman. Double album. Beautiful piece of work. I think by leaps and bounds, this is their best album. And I think a lot of fans will bristle at that, and that's fine. This is the least Erasure album out there. And what I mean by that is they dropped the formula for this album. Erasure's known for their 3-4 minute pop ditties, 10 tracks per album. Come in, get out, give you your pop goodness, give us that sugary pop goodness that we love, and then walk away. This is not like that. I try to examine this in my write up on my website, but Erasure, like, you'll notice even the cover is very different. There's no title to this album. It's self-titled. You see the lads here on the cover. None of their other albums you see their faces, but Vince and Andy are actually here. You can see them, and I think that represents something very key. This is their most personal album they ever put out by a long shot, and you can just hear it. You can hear it in the music. You can hear it in the lyrics. Andy's lyrics are very personal. Vince's keyboard work is very personal. Thomas Fehlman gives him some space. Rather than adhering to that 3-minute pop formula, he gives them 6, 7, even 10 minutes on some of these songs to explore. And the result is their most cohesive album. They have bigger singles. They have catchier tunes. This album, you're going to find the least amount of catchy popness ever in an Erasure album. But I think that's why I love this album so much. It's so different. They left their comfort zone and they found a really awesome groove here. As an album, no other Erasure album flows like this. No other Erasure album hits all the points. I think this album does the best job ever of illustrating why they're good. It has pop, it has ambient, it has experimentation. It has it all. And that's why this is my favorite Erasure album. This came out in 1995, and yeah, they made this album and sort of dropped the mic. They never attempted to do what they did on this one again. And maybe it's because people didn't like this album at the time, and after reading stuff online, I can still see they don't, and I don't really care. This has always been up to the point this got released. Obviously my favorite albums were other albums prior to this release, but since this has been released, this is my favorite Erasure album, and that hasn't changed. And I can't imagine it ever will. Really phenomenal album. And if you're an Erasure fan and you dismiss this album, I urge you to give it another try, because there's some really beautiful shit going on with this record. It's an amazing piece of work. I think they needed Fehlman to kind of pull them out of their holes and put them in their discomfort zone, because it worked. You can hear it. It's very experimental, very weird, very strange. Just, it's not a typical Erasure album, and it is in some ways. I mean, it's still got some pop tunes on it, but for the most part, it's a very moody, dark, weird, meandering in a good way album. So, and yeah, I have some further comments on my website about this and all these albums. So if you want to go check that out, again, that would be awesome. So I'm going to leave this Erasure video at that, because after this, they put out Cowboy, which is my least favorite Erasure album by a long shot. They put out Love Boat, which I still have. They put out a plethora of other albums once the 90s left us, and I just feel like Erasure, while I still appreciate what they do, I just feel like they haven't quite touched the brilliance of any of these things that they did. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it. I've been talking for just over an hour anyway, so it's much longer than I wanted to go in the first place. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. That's my Erasure video. Love these guys. They have definitely helped me through some depressing times lately. Man, it's tough turning the news on these days, isn't it? It's not fun. Um, yeah, like I said, I just turned the computer on to do this video, and I read about the stabbing in Los Angeles. I mean, it's, a couple days ago there was a shooting at a church. A couple of women died. This happened in Iowa. I can't even keep track of all the fucking shootings right now. Now there's stabbings. I mean, my God, man. It's embarrassing. And for those of you who are not in the United States, who keep track of all this, trust me, Americans are freaked out by this just as much as you are. We are, man. We are noticing this and it's freaking us the fuck out. So we're not numb to it. We're not numb to it at all, actually. It's quite the opposite. So, yeah, you Europeans who are concerned for us, I appreciate that because I know you guys are paying attention to this. The sad part is, as Europeans pay attention to this gun violence a lot more than a lot of Americans do, because that's why these shootings keep happening. People just want to keep praying and avoid the problem. So, yes, and us Americans are paying attention to this whole Ukrainian situation too. It's too much, man. It's just, all the shit going on in the world. It's too much. And this is when we need music the most, right? Like I mentioned before, I pulled my Erasure records out a few weeks ago because I just wanted some good positive vibes. I need it. I need it. And, Vince and Andy give me that. They have definitely pulled me through some difficult times the past few weeks. So I appreciate these guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching this video. And until next time, thanks.